Welcome back, listeners, to another insightful episode of the Life at Ahead podcast. I'm your host, Nick Rodriguez, and today we're exploring Ahead's early career development program, Launch Ahead. Launch is a 3-month program centered around education, training, and support that involves classroom lectures, self-led training, hands-on experience, shadowing opportunities, and project work. Ultimately, Launch was built to attract and develop a diverse community of the top IT consulting talent in the country and build Ahead's next generation of leaders. In today's episode, we interview folks from different classes to learn how they've soared to new heights through Launch. From conquering imposter syndrome to embracing growth opportunities, this episode is packed with valuable insights for tech professionals and those new to Ahead. So, join us as we blast off into the world of Launch Ahead and discover what it takes to thrive in tech. Welcome, listeners. I have MJ Shelton here with me. MJ, how are you doing?
Hey, Nick, I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Fantastic. I always like when guests ask how I'm doing. So I'm curious what launch class did you come in with and, what practice are you currently a part of?
I was part of Launch Class 7, which is the most recent one as of this recording. I came in June of 2023. I'm in the app dev practice and loving it the whole way.
Nice. App dev. Very cool. What's a day-to-day like for you?
Yeah. So right now I'm on a project that is wonderfully busy. I'm helping a client migrate a lot of applications to the cloud. In this one specifically, I happen to be interviewing a bunch of app teams. They brought me in because they wanted someone in app dev to be able to connect with these app teams, understand what they need. Do they need remediation, which means they need to upgrade their applications, or do they know that they need remediation? I can kind of get in there and see what they need, get them the support they need, and help them launch into that cloud.
Launch into that cloud. Love it. So you and I have spoken before, and while we're getting ready for the podcast, you're talking about your microphone and your headset. I've also seen your posts on LinkedIn about some of your background. But for our listeners who don't know, can you share a little bit about your career path and how you came to Ahead?
Absolutely. I went a very roundabout route to get into tech. I started in television. I was out in Los Angeles for many years. I worked on 6 Emmy award-winning shows. I really did enjoy it at the time. I was a project manager, and it just came to a point where, frankly, I wanted to move back to Chicago. I felt like the projects weren't as exciting to me as they once were. And I started thinking, what next? And I had always been somebody who really had a strong technical ability. And it started out kind of as a joke on set where oh, the youngest one there, they know how to use the technology. And so as I was kind of, especially in COVID, when I jumped in, everyone had to work from home. There was a lot of tech involved. I started reading errors in our software, and it kind of led to this interest. And so I jumped into a boot camp to see if I could cut it. I loved it. And then I landed at Ahead just a little bit out of boot camp. And so I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being able to use some of the skills that I had in TV and being able to talk and coordinate big projects, but also getting to use this new skill set that I absolutely love having.
Yeah. All right. So let's start. You used to be in TV. Did you say 4 or 6 Emmy award-winning shows?
6 Emmy award-winning. And what's funny is the most recent Emmy came while I was working at Ahead because of the delay due to the strikes. So I was like, Oh, look at me. Still, I'm not even in TV anymore, and I'm still working on Emmy award-winning shows, apparently.
That's fantastic. I'm going to dig in here a little bit because I think it's really cool. What is your favorite Emmy award-winning show that you worked on, if you can talk about it?
Oh, I can. It was called At Midnight, and it won an Emmy for a really unique use of social media. So was one of the smaller Emmys not shown in primetime. I did work on ones for the primetime Emmys, but this show has a special place in my heart because of the team. It was an amazing group of people. I came into work every day excited to do all sorts of things. It was a show that went daily, so every day was something new. And that's why I love working on projects, which is why I wanted to be a consultant, because I was like, I love jumping in with an awesome team and doing things no one's ever done before. Plus, they brought on guests, so every once in a while, there would be just Will Ferrell walking around. I ran into Weird Al, it was a really cool show to work on.
You had mentioned really loving working with a great team, and that's why it's your favorite Emmy show. That's actually why I came back to Ahead. It's the people. It's the people I'm
Yeah.
working with, the people I get to interact with. It's just so phenomenal, and so I can definitely see why you find your current role to be very fulfilling in that way.
I keep expecting I'm going to run into somebody who, isn't cool. But honestly, every time I meet somebody new at Ahead, I'm just like, what is our screening process to just only get cool people? I don't know what it is, but it's working.
Yeah. So you're talking about some of the skills that you learned in TV that you get to apply in your current role. I'm curious what some of those skills are.
In TV, you have to develop a lot of people skills. And honestly, probably for any career in life, relationships are what makes it. And
Hmm.
especially at somewhere like Ahead where you're working with clients and the team is going to want to be brought back if they have needs in the future. Building that relationship with clients is so important. And then also building relationships with your team to work better together, building relationships with other people at Ahead that you're not currently working with because you never know. They might be able to bring you on to something in the future. That's a really good skill set. I'm really glad that I developed. Also, I would say just the ability to work in a little bit of like uncertainty. Like this hasn't been done before and we got to figure it out. Knowing you
Hmm.
have the tools, you just have to use them in a different way than you've ever done it because like when I come in with the clients when a client brings you in, it's because they have a problem they haven't figured out how to solve yet. So you have to come in there and be excited to like, well, we don't know the answer. We got to dig in there and figure it out. And when you have a really good team, like you're going to get there, but there is a little level of let's figure out how we're going to get this one done. And being comfortable with that environment, I think, is a really good skill set that I've been able to use.
Yeah, absolutely. TV industry has to be super fast paced. Like you said, it's on a daily.
Yes.
I'm curious how launch has actually prepared you for the fast paced tech industry and how, where are the similarities and the differences between the two?
For my program, first we start out with like about a month of like let's introduce you to Ahead, to the solutions Ahead has, and do some workshop type activities, and then we had a big capstone project that was like a full pace. Let's go! We're all learning at the same time. Like I knew app dev very well, I felt like, but I got introduced to so many things that I just hadn't interacted with yet, from like ServiceNow, for example, uh, digging into security. Like it was really amazing to see how like everything Ahead was doing and how it interconnected. And I had to learn it so quickly because you only have a month to like slam through it all. And then right after that, I jumped into like about 5 months of training where we would take some classes online, and we would also worked on a project. It's an internal project that development is ongoing, though I believe they're showing our first version around. But that was really
Mm,
great because like immediately we're using those skills. I mean, it's a internal project that they're hoping to show off some of the technology we have. So we're using the latest technology in ways that like it's showing off the new stuff. So we're like, how do we make it work in this world? So, and being able to tap into so many people that Ahead has and ask them for help, how would you set this up? And then I go off and do it, and getting to learn. Like it was fast paced from the front, but as somebody who loves solving problems and figuring things out, like it's just been a great ride right from the top, like,
mhm.
and it allowed me, once I got in with a client, I was very used to like, again, maybe I don't know how this specific technology works in the way you want to use it, but I know my resources. I know who I can talk to. I know what websites to get answers from. I know the process to solve the problem, even if I don't have the answer
Yeah.
today to that problem.
Yeah, I love that. And, applying that process. And, one of the things that you had mentioned where, you have the people to support you too, right? And I think
Yes.
that's huge, a network of peers who support you and also, leaders and mentors. I'm curious, like, how did mentorship contribute to your experience on launch and your professional development?
Mentorship through launch is huge. Again, that first month, you're just meeting people and meeting people and meeting people. I mean, you're just so many. incredible, talented people getting put in front of you, and all of them are like, find time on my calendar, let's talk. Like they were all very willing to chat with me, and I took them up on that. I also went to an event for our Moving Women Ahead ERG. They it was like a speed dating mentorship like the day that was really fun. And they set me up with a mentor specifically kind of through them, who I've been meeting with regularly, something like every 2 weeks ish. Right now we're working through some business books together, which I find is really wonderful, where it sparks conversations that maybe I wouldn't have brought to the conversation myself. And then we can also talk about like what's going on day to day. So that's been one of my favorite mentorships. But again, one of my favorite things is like I'll get connected to somebody who's helping me out on some coding challenge I'm facing, and they might not have an answer for it, but they'll be like, "Oh, you should talk to this person." And then I reach out to that person, and then they jump in. I mean, I've had some people like spend hours with me working through some different problems, and to get an opportunity to sit down with somebody who's got 10, 15, 20 years of experience and have them work through that problem with you. It just, the first few times I was like nervous of like, just like, I don't know this tech, I guess right now. I'm so sorry. But every single time they're like, well, this is how you learn it. Let's go. Like, how do you think I learned it? Like, I just jumped in.
Yeah, I find that's also how I learn the best too, is just hands on, get in there, get messy. You're not gonna, if you're waiting until you are perfect to do something, that time's never going to come. I think I've been seeing some posts on social media and just kind of a message in general, like you don't become a master without kind of being that novice first who doesn't know, and not being afraid to say you don't know and try something new. Like that's the first step you got to take.
Absolutely. And that was the beauty of launch for me was, I mean, I just had time to be the novice. Like Ahead really just gave us that space, gave us resources, and said, go learn. Like that's what we want you to do with your time right now, is go learn and figure out what you need to know and how to learn it and all that it takes to get closer to that mastery level. I'm sure I have a few more years till I can really claim that, but at least like I had that time. So now when I'm interfacing with clients, I'm like, when they come to me and they say, how does Kubernetes work in the cloud? I'm like, oh, I don't say this to a client, obviously, but in my brain, I'm like, man, I struggled with that question myself. I fought it for hours. It felt like arm wrestling it. And it allows me to now come to them and be like, I know how to deal with it, because I was in the trenches a little bit with it earlier.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you've learned a lot through launch. I mean, you already came to launch with a lot of skills, either from your boot camp or from your experience in TV production. I'm actually curious, like, where do you think you've had the most significant growth in your professional career so far with launch?
I think it really has been in my technical abilities. When I was in boot camp, I didn't realize it, but we were so siloed in app dev, like which is good for that season. Like you want to pick a skill and focus on it and really learn about it. But the nice thing about Ahead is with so many practices that can work together, and the reality of technology being like everything is connected, even if you want to deal with it separately. How does your app work in the cloud is important to understand. So I didn't come in with much cloud understanding, and now I understand it a lot, and also like when a solution is being built, seeing how someone at a more senior level is considering all different elements together, even if I'm not quite there yet, I'm building that base understanding and understanding how the way that I'm coding is going to affect the whole ecosystem of a company at times.
Yeah, being able to kind of like zoom in and also the zoomed out view, right? You can see the tree, you
Yeah.
can also see the forest sort of thing, and you know how each
Right.
impact each other.
Yeah. And this is my tree. I'm going to take care of this tree, but I understand what your tree is doing, and I understand we need to exist together.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. I'm curious if you've had any pivotal or like aha moments that you experienced during the program.
Yeah, one of the things I was really lucky to do was my manager, Ryan Dunaway, brought me in to help him with some PowerPoints that he was working on, a sales deck he was working on. And I've always been kind of good at a PowerPoint, so he brought me in on a number of them. And At first, it was really just kind of using my PowerPoint skills. But after working on a few decks, you start recognizing patterns and recognizing how he's trying to solve a problem for the client.
Hmm.
And I think that was the really big like aha for me, was how to tie a business goal to a technological solution. For example, when I'm on a cloud migration, there's dozens of reasons to do a cloud migration. Maybe they're trying to modernize to take advantage of what the cloud has. Sometimes they're like, no, this data center is closing. We got to get out of there. Like there's dozens of reasons to move, and you need to understand what the client needs and then fit the solution to them. So for me, realizing like, oh, I was thinking in the code of like, I'm just trying to make an app, but you're trying to make an app for a specific purpose. And you need to keep that in mind while you're coding, because that's going to affect what choices you're making.
Yeah. I'm curious what like skills or knowledge have been particularly valuable in your journey throughout, all this learning and working on client projects.
I think a big one is, and this is just how school inevitably is, tech moves so fast that what you learn in school, so what I learned in my boot camp, great base, like really, really glad I have it. But ahead is much more cutting edge than that boot camp can be, because the boot camps, they made a curriculum and they modernize it, but they roughly stick to it, right?
Yeah.
So I've really appreciated seeing, like, just learning like what's on the cutting edge. There's a lot of talking about machine learning right now, for example, which I don't necessarily touch an apt of, but it likely will affect projects I'm on. Talking
Yeah.
about what's cutting edge, what is going to help our clients now. Also, a very cool thing about being a consulting firm is like you know what problems people are having because they come to you for them. So you figure out what technologies are people like, oh, we need to take advantage of this. We want to leverage the cloud. We want to use an IDP. Like, you're like, oh, we know what people are wanting. So we know what the cutting edge is because they're asking us for it.
Yeah, absolutely. In my previous episode, Inspiring Innovation Through Community, Josh Perkins actually kind of touches on this, and he calls it a benefit of having so many clients is that you basically get to see what all of these clients are experiencing. And if you pull away from that and kind of take this high level overview, you can see the trends, you can see where the newest new is, sort of thing. And you're like, okay, we're familiar with this. And hey, we're starting to see a trend of these new problems or these new challenges that businesses are facing. Okay, this is where we need to focus. This is where the next turn is, sort of thing. And I think that's really cool insights that we can gain from working with our clients.
Yeah, and as on a technological side, you get to know like what are people using, what should I learn, like, so it's benefits to solving problems and like personally just figuring out what's the latest stuff out there.
I'm not gonna lie, you seem incredibly every time I talk to you, you seem incredibly confident in what you're doing, especially with your past and everything. I'm curious, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome?
Yeah, sometimes I think of imposter syndrome as this big like everyday walking in thinking like you don't belong there. And I don't think I've felt that, but there have definitely been moments, especially when the first time I was with clients. I'm again very early out of launch. The first time I was with clients, I show up like I'm meant to be the expert at what I do. And having just like, you can't help but have this like little moment of just like, I'm the expert, it's me.
Yeah,
And
am I?
right. You can't help but have those moments. But what I found is like for the most part, when people are asking questions, like sometimes people would ask a question, you'd get like a little nervous, and then you're like, oh wait, I know this one. And also the wonderful thing is like I had a lot of great support on the team. I've got a lot of really good leadership. And so we would go in as a team to many client situations, and watching how my team answers questions. They don't know every answer. That felt really great to learn. Seeing how they say, I don't know the answer, but I know how to get it, or I don't know the answer, but this is the resource that will answer it for us. Like watching them handle the trickier questions made me a lot more confident. And also just as we were saying earlier, you're the novice a little bit. And when you're jumping into a new project, you're always going to be a little bit of a novice because you might not know that the landscape that you're walking into. You don't know the history of the client. You might not, maybe you do, but you might not. So you have that little moment. And I already can tell, I'm 2 months into this project now. I had a kind of a tricky client meeting where I got peppered with like a lot of questions, and I held my own. 2 months ago, it would not have gone that well. But I walked out of that meeting just feeling like, wow, I had all those answers, and everything I didn't have an answer to, I knew the resource to point them towards. And it's funny how you have a hard meeting and you walk out proud of yourself, but that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's where, for me personally, that's where a lot of growth happens, is in that unknown. I've been doing
Yeah,
some physical strength training, and a lot of the growth happens when you are like near failure and you're at that point where
yeah,
you haven't been before, sort of thing. So, like, that is where you can experience a lot of growth, is when you are uncomfortable, when you are put in those situations and you are asked the tough
absolutely.
questions. And then, hey, turns out you are that expert.
Right. Also, not having answers to questions is how you then get the answers to the questions. So, again, 2 months ago, like there were some questions I might have kind of been like, I don't know, I got to figure it out. But then I did figure it out. And so when I got asked it 2 months later, I'm like, oh, that's easy. Dealt with it before.
Yeah, yeah. You had earlier had mentioned that you also have a really great network of like support from like leaders and peers and mentors. Do you have like a mentorship experience that had a significant impact on you?
Yeah. So when I was in the launch program working on that internal project, we were trying to use technology at a pretty small scale because we just wanted to have this little application that could be spun up really quickly in any cloud environment and then spun down kind of at the push of a button effectively. And that meant that a lot of technology had to kind of fit on a small space on the cloud. And that's not always advisable. We wouldn't tell clients to do that on something that's being used at a enterprise level. But for just a little basically sample app, like it's fine. But part of the challenge I was having was there's some technology that wants to take up more space. Kafka did not want to work on my cloud. It did not. So one specific guy, his name is Michael Peters. He sat with me for hours. I would keep coming back to him. Like we'd kind of fix it, and then we'd check later. The logs were erroring. Like he walked me through the whole thing. And the best part was he was always like, I was getting nervous that my code wasn't working, and he was always calm and like, we'll figure it out. And he sent me so many links, and I learned so much. And I was actually the one who solved it, like alone in a room. I was so proud of myself, and it was all with his help along the way. It was digging into the documentation he sent me.
Yeah, and I think that aligns with kind of what you were saying earlier about ahead giving people in launch the space, or just people in general, the space to learn and ask questions and be vulnerable. And
Yeah,
and when you have that space and it's coupled with people who also want to spend the time and treat questions as an opportunity, it's just it makes magic. And I think a launch is such like a focal point for that. It highlights it really well.
yeah. And what an amazing introduction to a company, because you come in and you're slammed into like, here's all these people who all they want to do is help you. And now I have just a network of people who will help me moving forward, because I have that relationship with them. I know they want to be a part of my success, and you know what? I want to be part of their success, because all of our success is a head success and we're all winning.
Yes, two-way street on everything. Super important. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to either break into tech or who might be new at ahead?
Well, for breaking into tech, I'd say work hard and it will pay off. I will. Like if you really love it, if you're coding every day or whatever specific technology you're doing, if you're doing it every day, like people will see you. I remember there was a time in between my boot camp and ahead where I was trying to get a job, and it felt a little nerve-wracking. You want to talk about a little bit of imposter syndrome where you're like, I know I went through this boot camp, but like, am I a coder? Am I doing it? And seeing
Mhm.
where I am now, oh my gosh, like I was like, apparently somebody thinks I'm a good coder, and it's ahead. So here I am. For jumping in with ahead, I would say, I mean, really, like if you're in launch, like just keep your ears open, your eyes open, like soak in as much as you can, because it's only going to help you. And once you're on projects, you're going to be busy, so it's not quite as easy to meet people and tap on shoulders, unless you're working with them in a project, then you'll get to know them very well.
Yeah.
So take that time, like take advantage of that time. They like people want you to learn, do it, learn, like grow. It's an amazing opportunity to do it.
Well, MJ, thank you so much for your time today and answering all of my questions and sharing your story. And it's been awesome to see. So thank you, MJ.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome back, listeners. I have Shafali here with me today. Shafali, how are you doing?
Hi, Nick. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So I'm curious, kind of, what launch class did you come in with, and what practice are you currently a part of?
So, I'm from the recent launch class 7, and I'm in the data practice. So, talking about my day to day activities, it's mostly like I'm working on an internal project right now. So, the day starts with like a daily stand up, and we just discuss about like what we have done before the previous day, what the plans are for today, and then we like mostly start with our individual work. That is how it goes. The project is currently at a very early stage, so we have a lot of meetings going on for like planning, architecture setup, and stuff. So it's pretty good and pretty interesting.
Awesome. That sounds great. And I'm curious, how did your career get started, and what has the path been for you so far?
So I'm originally from India. I did my bachelor's from India, and then I worked a bit for like 7, 8 months in Accenture as a software engineer. And I came to US for my master's in computer science. That is how like I got introduced to the data engineering and analytics path. I worked as a data engineer intern during summer during my master's, and that is when I actually started liking working with data. And after I completed my master's, I got to know about Ahead through LinkedIn when I was
Mm-hmm.
searching for jobs. And when I saw the launch program, I was like really interested in it.
Awesome. What a fun
Yes.
path so far.
Definitely, yeah. I'm looking forward to like working in Ahead for a long time now. So that's a good thing.
Love to hear that. Yeah, I myself am coming up on 9 years at Ahead.
Yeah, to like the culture here is amazing. So
Yeah. And so, I'm curious how launch has prepared you for the fast paced and ever changing kind of tech industry that we find ourselves in.
so I think like the current tech industry, like the current situation in US, it's such that it is very important to like have experience in different fields. Like even if you are a part of, say, my example in data, you should be well versed with almost all types, all the fields which are present in data, like ML, data analytics, data engineering. And I feel Ahead, especially the launch program, has definitely helped me to focus or build my career around all the sub practices in data. And one of the major things is how the launch curriculum is structured. Like, I have the flexibility to explore the areas that I am interested in, and I also get to like know about all the other areas that I haven't ventured in yet. So I felt that was like one of the most important thing when you're a fresher in the industry to like get hands on with like industry level experience. And the main thing was like the first month of the launch program, which was like the pre-sales month where we got to know what goes under the hood. That was like one of the aha moments in my industry because I never have like thought of what really goes behind the hood in like sales, and it takes a lot of effort to get a deal booked. So that was one of the great experiences or learning curves in my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And what really resonates with me is kind of like I call it like the Swiss Army knife, right? So you're trying to be the Swiss Army knife of data. You need to understand the engineering around it, the structure, the different types, everything. That's how I felt when I started my marketing career at Ahead. Actually, I got in as a marketing associate, and I was originally brought in to help basically brand proposals and provide sales enablement around RFPs. But I got a lot of opportunities around demand gen, event marketing, web design, collateral design, like all that stuff. And it was a great benefit to learn that much about marketing as an industry, because then I considered myself a marketing Swiss Army knife now at that point. Of course, I'm not like maybe you want the chef's knife to go do all the cutting, but I've also got the corkscrew, the file, the scissors, the pliers, whatever you need, sort of thing. So I really like the idea of being well rounded in the space that you're working in.
I like this term, so sum enough. I'm definitely going to use it next time.
Yeah, take it. It's amazing, and it's a very clear way, I think, of letting someone know that, like, hey, I'm
Yes.
very practical, and I've got a
Yeah.
lot of capabilities.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, you already had some experience working at Accenture, right? Got your master's, the launch program. I'm curious, like, along your career path, where do you feel like you've had the most significant areas of growth?
So I feel my most significant areas of growth have been in ahead um, in the last 6 months, where I've been learning various technologies like AWS, Azure, Snowflake, DBT tool, which are very important in like the current era of data. And I feel there is a community for almost everything that you want to learn in ahead, and that is like really important because you have the support you need when you start learning something. So that was like one of the main things that has helped me a lot to like get my
Hmm.
certifications or start learning some new tool.
Yeah. And I'm curious what, like, skills or knowledge have been particularly valuable in your journey so far.
So when we had our 5 day conference at the start of the launch in Chicago, we had a personality test, and I got to know that my working style is more of like a bit introverted or shy in nature. And the main
Hmm.
areas of growth were in this field where I got to network a lot. I got to like speak up for myself and gain confidence in like public speaking. So that has been like the main area of growth, like all the soft skills and just getting to network with people. Like honestly, I wouldn't have been on this podcast if I wouldn't have gained that confidence back in like the last 6 months. So that's like a win-win for me.
Oh my gosh, it's a win for me. I'm so excited to have you on here. This is great. I feel like
Thank
you
you.
got to grow and take that kind of step
Yes.
forward and get out there. That's
Yeah.
wonderful, Shafali.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm curious, how did mentorship contribute to your professional development?
So thankfully, I had like amazing mentors throughout my launch, like all my managers and colleagues working with me. I like to think of it as everyone who I have like talked to or chatted with has mentored me in some way or the other. Like one of the significant experiences during our launch curriculum in our data practice, we had stand-ups every day just to keep in touch with like all the other associates that are working with me. The mentorship during those stand-ups and one-on-ones with my managers helped me a lot. Like it kept me motivated to go through different learning paths, try different tools, take up different projects like personal projects to like get hands-on experience in the tools. I interacted with many other people, and whoever I talked to had some sort of guidance or support to give to me, and that really helped me. I think the community building was one of the major things that helped me.
Yeah, I like that you look at anybody you've encountered as an opportunity to learn
Yes.
something from, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm doing in this podcast. Some people that I think have a really great story, and I come down and I just want to hear about it and learn from those
Yeah.
experiences. And when you have these relationships with your mentors, right? I think a lot of the times people can think of mentorship as almost like a one-way street, like mentor to
Yeah.
mentee. But what do you think it takes to be a good mentee to get the most out of your mentorship?
I think um, the most important thing is to ask questions and try asking the right type of questions. Like, as a person, everyone has a lot of um, experience and information that they want to share, but if you don't ask the good, right type of questions, they won't be able to share that much information. That is what I feel like. You should, from your side, be thankful that there is someone to mentor you, and you should have that excitement or curiosity to talk with that person to get more from their experience. I think that is what is important to be like a good mentee.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was earlier in my career, I always thought like a mentorship opportunity was like someone who would just come by and drop this nugget of knowledge, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
my life would change. But it's on the mentee. I learned that it's my duty to dig, to
Yes.
ask the questions, to seek that.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just rely on someone else who's just going to come in and give you this aha moment. You need to seek them yourself,
Exactly.
and I
Yeah.
think that's great, Shafali. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's true.
have you experienced any imposter syndrome throughout your journey?
Yes, and I would say I still experience a bit of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the main reason is like when I joined Ahead, there are like so many talented people all around me. And when I started learning something new in the launch curriculum, I felt that I was going a bit slow and I took a lot of time to probably master it or learn it properly. And there were people already who knew it and were almost like perfectionist in it. So that kind of gave me imposter syndrome kind of thing. But eventually I realized that these people that I was looking on, they also started from this point where I am probably now. So that is how I'm trying to like overcome it by thinking that I have to start somewhere to be on a level that these people are right now. So yes, I still experience it a bit, but I'm finding my way through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's sometimes how projects go, right? Like you can train and train and train all that you want before you go to do it. But for me personally, I'm a hands-on learner. Like I can watch
Okay.
1,000 hours of how to kick
Yeah.
or shoot a basketball or something like that. But I know for me, my learning is I just got to start shooting and start, like learning from that and kind of developing. And you can't be perfect before you start. You just need to
Right.
start.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like a bit of both. Like, I need to start learning from some point and then get hands on experience. But yes, it's like a 50-50 of both the things.
Yeah, that's really great. So I'm
Mm.
curious, like what advice would you give to someone who's looking to break into the tech industry or who's starting their journey at Ahead?
The launch program that I was specifically in is tailored in such a way that you get exposure to a lot of different tools and technologies, and you get a lot of opportunity to learn those things. So, one advice that I would give is be flexible and try to learn a lot of things that you can in this time because this is a precious time, like the first 3-4 months that you get, because you don't possibly have billable opportunities. You have all the time to learn, and Ahead pays pays you to do that. So take full opportunity of it and be curious. Don't be scared to ask questions because that is how you will advance in your career and network with a lot of people. Ahead has like amazing talent and they are ready to support you, help you in every way they can. So please do network with people. For breaking into tech industry, I think start with the basics because basics are what will help you in the future. Like there are a lot of technologies and tools available right now, but if you are clear with the basics, then you can pick up any tool or technology later because even if there are like different tools or technologies, they are based on the same basic principle. So that is like one advice for like breaking into tech industry.
Well, Shafali, those are all the questions I've got for you today. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm like so excited that you wouldn't have originally joined this podcast, but thanks to the soft skills that you learned during launch, you wanted
Yeah,
to put yourself out there and hop on today. So I'm super stoked that you were able to join us.
I'm really excited
Uh,
for this.
awesome. Well, Shafali, thank you so much and have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good weekend, you too.
Welcome, listeners. I have Sonsire Parker here with me today, who is a senior associate technical consultant. Sonsire, how are you doing?
I am wonderful, Nick. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I am doing great. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what launch class you came in through and kind of what practice are you currently in and a little bit about your day to day.
So, Nick, I began my journey with Ahead coming in with launch class number 3. Yay!
All right.
And it's been a wonderful journey, I might add. My practice is in networking, and I am on the delivery side.
Awesome. Very cool. And what is sort of your like day to day like being in the network delivery side of things?
So, Nick, my day to day varies. It all depends on the type of client that I have and their needs. I work with a current client that's in the healthcare industry, and we're doing an entire network refresh with them. So we are conducting switch deployments, upgrading their network devices and equipment. Sometimes I work very early in the morning, or it could be very late at night, depending on the specifics in detail. So it can kind of vary, but it's an interesting journey. And it's great to work with a lot of the field engineers and to be one-on-one with many of our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy some flexibility. You had mentioned Launch Class 3. What year was that?
January of 2021 is when I hired on. And when I hired, there was 12 of us within my launch class. So that was very, very interesting because launch class 1, there was like 4 people. Launch class 2 was like 6 or 8 or something along those lines. And then launch class 3 was like 12. So we came in pretty hefty. Now, with launch class 7 and possibly 8, I think they're bringing in over 20, employees within those launch classes. So it seems like it's growing. So I love to see that. And I love to see the various fields that we specialize in: networking, cloud, ESM, things of that nature. I think that that's just wonderful. We're opening up a lot of doors in the technical realm for a lot of people. And I think that that is great, not only for the company, but for our clients and for individuals.
I couldn't agree more about how amazing it is that we're opening doors for folks. And what I'd really like to know is kind of like, what was your career path and how did you come to a head and get started with Launch?
It's a very good question. I have a very broad background. I have an electrical engineering degree. When I graduated from college, I began working on a railroad. I've always been in like leadership roles, managerial supervisory roles, which was great. It wasn't until maybe about 12 to 13 years ago, I started in telecommunications. And that's what kind of led the way. So with the leadership role along with the telecom, I had a very broad background and I learned a great deal with some amazing companies, right? And you will not believe 3 years ago, Ahead actually found me. I knew nothing about Ahead. And a young lady reached out to me, sent me an email and said, "Hey, I see your information on LinkedIn. I think that you would be a great fit. Can you please apply for this role?" Never in a million years would I have ever thought that I would have been a technical consultant. I never thought that I had the skill set for that. And it seems as though I thought it was amazing that she reached out to me. I applied for it. Within a few hours later, she called me back and said, "I want to set up an interview." And we moved forward with that interview. I've been here. I love the company. I love the culture. Everything is just amazing. I'm learning a great deal. And I can honestly say, all of my previous careers summed up into one has led me to where I am today. And I just want to say thank you Ahead for seeking me out because I absolutely love this role.
That's great. And I love the different backgrounds that you're talking about, right? Your electrical degree, working in railroads, a lot of leadership positions. That sounds amazing. And then kind of using all of that skill set and bringing it here through Launch. How wonderful. And so what a great opportunity.
Yes, it was. It was a blessing.
Yeah, great way to think about it. Like you said, you haven't been in this space before. You didn't ever see yourself being a technical consultant. How do you think Launch prepared you for the fast-paced and ever-changing tech industry?
I must admit, Launch has learned and they've heard people and they've changed a lot of things. So we do offer the mentorship. We do offer, more. We do have more structure. We do, it's building and it's growing and it's getting every year. It's developing and becoming greater and greater. So please allow me to say that piece. However, back when I began in Launch Class 3. It was in its most infantile stages, right? And so those things were to be expected. So there were a lot of wrinkles that needed to be ironed, right? Now it's starting to become a pristine, clean program, and it's helping our associates transition, right, from where they were, whether they just come out of college or maybe coming from a different background, and now transitioning to a type of role where you're now consulting.
Yeah, I'm curious, like what skills or knowledge have been particularly valuable in your journey here at Ahead?
As a network engineer, I do a lot of self-development, right? So I'm always looking to learn. I utilize my time to, read. I'm on YouTube. I'm always asking for like senior consultants if I can shadow them. So I'm always looking for ways for career development. And I think that has helped me tremendously. So if anything comes down that pipeline and they need some assistance or help with something, I can say, hey, I can do that. Or I can assist. Let me know. Put me in, coach, because I'm willing to, take the bull by the horn. So I think that having a go-getter type of mentality, don't wait for someone to have to tell you what to do. Even if you're not helping directly, see how you can help indirectly. You have a colleague who is maybe overwhelmed with something. Hey, let me take some of that off of your plate. How can I help you? A great engineer once told me, what makes a great engineer is a person who is always willing to assist. And that's what I aim to do. I'm always willing to help someone else. And by helping them, it really helps me.
Yeah, I love that. In a previous role of mine, I ran like basically a proposal design team, and we would get really big requests with really short deadlines. And it was never like, "Ooh, man, bummer that Megan got that request." It was like, as a team, how can we all pull in here? Okay, cool. Hey, Grace, you got slides 1 through 30, Kirsten 31 through 60, Megan 61 through 90. I'll take care of these 10 really heavy slides at the end. And it's not cool, I'm done, we're good. No, it's cool, I'm done. Who else needs more assistance in their slides? And then when you come together as a team like that, you're way more impactful and you feel it. It feels really good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that I can honestly say is that, some people, especially as engineers, and it's not all, they kind of get into their silo and they work alone. But pulling in other people and collaborating really makes a team just that much stronger.
Absolutely. So I want to go back to your growth mindset, and you're always looking to sharpen your tool set, right? I'm curious, where have you experienced the most significant growth in your career or in your tool set?
My technical ability. And I would say that because in my previous careers, I've been in leadership roles. Now, in this case, I lead myself and assist people, but I have to utilize my technical ability to help our clients, right? When they have a problem, I have to learn how to listen to that problem and also know how to consult on how to fix that problem, right? So that has been my biggest growth experience, right? How can I take the skills that I have and transform it so I can help fix a problem for our client, right? Because my thing is now in my role is I'm listening for problems. That's what I'm listening. That's what I'm doing. I do that every day. I'm listening to hear what an issue is so I can mitigate it, so I can fix it or help it or make it better, right? So that's been my biggest growth piece, working as a technical consultant.
That's awesome. I also kind of like what you were talking about, where you've been a leader before, but now you need to like lead yourself, and how you still take some of that skill set and apply it to your day to day, and kind of combining the best of both worlds, right? That leadership experience plus with that like growth mindset, individual contributor, grab the bull by the horns sort of attitude, and bring that together. And I think that would make you a very, very good consultant.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
trying. I'm learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of learning, I'm curious, like, how did mentorship contribute to your professional development at Ahead?
I can honestly say I don't have like one mentor. I have many mentors. I have mentors who don't even know that they're my mentors. Does that make sense? So I haven't had a conversation with them and said, hey, you're my mentor. I don't do that. What I do is when I recognize a person for their worth and I like it and it's something that I can learn from, I pick their brain, I learn from them, I listen to them, I watch them, I see how they do things, and I mimic it. I put my twist to it, put my twist on it and things of that nature and make it my own. But the people who I work around, many of the senior consultants, my bosses, people in general, whether they work within a head or not. I have a lot of mentors who they don't even know who I am, right? But because I've watched them and learned from them, that's what really makes me a better person. I'm able to utilize their experience and their skills, adopt it, and make it my own. And then I use that in my day-to-day on how I conduct myself in my business.
Yeah, I think that's really great. I was actually just having a conversation with another launcher recently. Shout out to Alexis Lohman. She's so involved in her community. It's super inspiring. I'm going to be releasing a story about her soon. We're on the topic of mentorship, and she was talking about how she doesn't have necessarily a core mentor, but a mentor for this topic or a mentor for this space or whatever it is. And I really like that because I feel like it's hard to find the one mentor who has walked the exact path you have walked, probably because the paths we're walking can be fairly unique, but it's a collective group of mentors that you can go to for those different things.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I'm curious, anywhere along your journey, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome?
All the time. All the
Same.
time. Yes, absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned that because my best friend, she told me not long ago, she was like, you always sound so confident. And I'm like, well, thank you. Because I just want to let you know that I was super duper scared, when I'm in front of customers. Of course, I don't seem that way. And that takes practice. I've learned how to poise myself and to project my voice in a way where someone wouldn't know that I'm nervous. But deep down inside, in my mind, I know, like, okay, wait a minute, I don't know, so I got to go figure that out. But when I explain that, I need to make sure I can convey things to people and they don't lose confidence in what I'm saying, but just know that, hey, I don't know, but I'm gonna find out for you, right? So yeah, that takes practice. That's not something that I just learned overnight. That came over time.
Absolutely. I really like kind of what your answer is, even when you don't know something. One of my mottos or slogans is, there's only two outcomes. Either I know how to do it and I'll get it done, or I don't know how to do it. I'll figure out how to do it and then I'll get it done. Right? It doesn't matter if I don't know it now. I'm going to go figure it out. We're going to problem solve. So
that's exactly right, Nick. That's the attitude to have. And I believe as a consultant, you need to have that type of mentality because guess what? We don't know everything. Now, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. And I think that's something that I had to learn as well over time is that it's okay to say you don't know. The but in that is go find out, right?
Yes.
Go find out what you don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the key.
Yeah, I love your thirst for knowledge. I'm curious, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to either break into the tech industry or who might be having their first day at Ahead?
To all my newbies out there, whether you're trying to break into tech or if this is your first day, don't give up, build bridges, consistently network with others, ask as many questions as you can, and it's okay to have that imposter syndrome. That's okay, because it'll go away. Because one day, someone's going to be coming to you because they're going to be feeling the way you felt, and you're going to be able to share your experiences with them. So embrace the journey. And that's all I have to say.
Oh my God, absolute mic drop right there. That's great advice for anybody. I don't even care if you're trying to break into tech or anything. Wonderful words to live by. Well, Sincere, thank you so much today for your time and for imparting this wisdom. I've already learned plenty from you, so maybe you're one of my unspoken mentors as well. But I appreciate you hopping on the podcast and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
Welcome, listeners. I have Nicole Katinsky here with me, who is an associate technical consultant on our security team. Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. If you don't mind sharing, what launch class did you come in through? And I really don't have that much visibility in our security practice. What's your day-to-day like?
Yeah, so I was a member of Launch Class 7, which started in June of 2023. So I've been here for about 9 months. And for my day-to-day, I've been on a lot of governance, risk, and compliance related projects. Some security assessments were involved. I'm currently building some incident response documentation for another client and chasing certifications in my extra time.
I love that, chasing certification. Sounds like you're hungry and just after it.
Yes.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about your career path and how you actually came to AHEAD.
Yeah, so I'm a recent graduate. I graduated from the University of Michigan Dearborn in April of last year, and my bachelor's degree is in cybersecurity with a concentration in digital forensics. And during my senior year, I started looking for and applying for jobs for after graduation, and I came across the job posting for the launch program on LinkedIn and thought, wow, this looks like a fabulous opportunity, and was really inspired to see an organization that wanted to invest in and nurture early level talent. So I submitted my application hoping for the best and was contacted to schedule an interview within the week.
Haha, fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, my eyebrows totally peaked when you said digital forensics. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
So I'm assuming some of what you studied is what you leverage in your day to day now that you're working. But I'm curious, how has launch actually prepared you for the fast paced and ever changing tech industry we find ourselves in?
Yeah, the launch program has given me a lot of exposure. I've been able to shadow a number of engagements and I was able to participate in some projects early on. I wasn't tucked away in the corner as a less experienced resource where I'm just only taking notes. I was able to really roll up my sleeves and dig in on these projects and make meaningful contributions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think two of the things that you had mentioned that really resonate with me, one, shadowing, I think mentorship and being able to see someone else do the work first and kind of introduce you that way, that works for me. And the second is rolling up your sleeves and just getting in there. I think I mentioned in one of my other recordings, but recently remodeled my master bathroom, and I would have taken 3 years to start that because I was trying to wait until I knew everything to do it. But my wife was like, "Hey, sometimes you just got to start the demo and learn along the way and get your hands dirty." And that's what ended up working out for us. So I love that mentality. I'm curious, did you have any pivotal or aha moments you experienced during the program?
Yeah, I would say one would be it was last November, and one of my projects involved us conducting some on site workshops for a client. And, the engagement lead that I was working with, he said, I know you're new at this, but I would love for you to try and conduct one of these workshops yourself. I'll help you design it and I'll be there right next to you. I'll chime in if you need extra support or if there's a more difficult question, but I want you to give it a go. And at first, I was really nervous, but it ended up going really well. My teammates were really happy with how it went. Even more importantly, the client was happy with how it went. And I realized, that wasn't so bad. And I didn't need to be afraid. And, going forward, I'm less nervous about leading those conversations.
That's great that they had created an opportunity for you to kind of get out there and learn some of that. I'm curious, how has mentorship contributed to your professional development beyond that?
Yeah, the mentorship has far and away been one of the most impactful things about the launch program. And I don't think I can emphasize that strongly enough. There's a few people that I work with very regularly, if not every single day. And I don't think I can picture my time at AHEAD without a single one of them. I've learned so much from each of them. And, it's been really valuable to learn from these people with all different backgrounds and varying levels of industry experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, all the learning that you're doing, all the growth and everything that you've experienced through Launch Ahead, I'm curious, where do you think you've had the most significant growth for yourself?
I would say the most significant growth has been in my writing skills and documentation skills. Same like I was saying about the presentation in the workshop earlier that I was nervous going in, but realized it wasn't so bad. I was also very nervous writing some of my first deliverables, worrying about just the wording and the structure, but I've developed a lot more confidence in that area since I've done it a few more times.
Yeah, like that you mentioned confidence. Conducting some of these interviews for our listeners, I actually get to participate in the first week of launch. They come into our Chicago headquarters and we basically have an orientation week, which is fast-paced learning, a quick, really high-level overview of AHEAD stuff, but a lot of fun. And it's interesting to see where everyone was on day 3. And it's awesome to see where everyone's at right now in month 9, because I can tell you are definitely more confident when you are talking. So
thank you.
Yeah. What skills or knowledge have been particularly valuable for you in your journey so far?
Definitely people skills, presentation skills, and speaking skills. This program has been very hands-on. I'm very regularly speaking in front of clients or large groups of people. And, even if I'm just giving a 1-minute introduction of myself, having confidence in public speaking has gone a long way.
That's wonderful to hear, because I think it's fantastic that we focus on that, because it is really important.
For sure.
Amongst all this learning and this new confidence and everything do you have, do you still experience any imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. It's still something I'm working on, but along the way, there have been a few mindset shifts that have helped me. On an individual level, my biggest thing was, just learning to give myself a little bit more grace, being more patient with myself.
Yeah.
While also being realistic and acknowledging I'm still starting out, I'm not going to know everything, but also giving myself credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Another thing would be bonding with my peers in the launch program and creating a bit of a support system. It was helpful to know that, I wasn't alone in feeling this way, and being reassured that this is a very normal thing to feel starting out, and being able to lean on each other for support.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anyone that in particular that you think of whenever you're thinking about support or has helped you?
Yeah, so I'm one of 2 launchers in the security practice. The other launcher is Zach Martin. And, over the last several months, we've studied for certifications together and also just learning the ropes together. And we really built a great bond as only 2 launchers in one of the smaller practices. Some other mentors I would love to give a shout out to are my launch buddy, Mariano, my supervisors, Steve and Wally, and some of the engagement leads I'm working with, Austin and Chris.
That's a really awesome list of mentors, especially, just like the sheer quantity that you have. I think that's really amazing. I'm curious, is there like a specific experience with any of those mentors that had a significant impact on you?
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one, but a really impactful experience I had was with my launch buddy, Mariano, and he gave me some really good advice in the first few weeks of the program. He told me that now's a good time to start thinking about building your brand as a team member at Ahead and just as a young professional in general. And by the end of that conversation, I decided that the brand and the reputation that I wanted to build was, someone who's dedicated and enthusiastic about the work that they do, and someone who's warm and friendly and supportive and always in your corner. And, Mariano has continued to be the most amazing mentor and really my biggest cheerleader throughout this program. So huge shout out to Mariano.
Yeah, Mariano. Everyone needs a cheerleader, and I'm glad that you've got yours. And I think that's awesome advice. And for what it's worth, I think you are absolutely on brand right now. So,
thank you.
I'm curious, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to either break into the tech industry or who's new here to Ahead?
Yeah, so my advice is be open to new opportunities and change, be a yes person. Don't get discouraged, learn how to dust yourself off and pick yourself back up when you're feeling knocked down. Make sure you ask a lot of questions, but do your research and, your due diligence first. Don't ask a blind question. Make sure you're always prepared going into these conversations. Make sure to challenge yourself, dig in and work hard. But as I said earlier, make sure you're also giving yourself some grace. Last but not least, actually, I would say this is the most important, is networking. It's very important to work to build strong connections and learn as much as you can from others.
Great advice. You definitely found the recipe for success in tech. Well, it's been wonderful having you on the podcast, and I appreciate you for jumping on and sharing your story.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me.
And that wraps up this episode of the Life at Ahead podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the Launch Ahead program and the remarkable journeys of MJ, Shafali, Sansire, and Nicole. From overcoming imposter syndrome to embracing growth opportunities, they've shown us that with determination and resilience, anything is possible. If you found this episode inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more stories from Aheadians. And thank you to our listeners for joining us today. I look forward to having you with us in future episodes. Until then, stay tuned, stay well, and stay ahead. Aheadians.